Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia J here with Erica L. Ayala. And Erica, it's been a big week of conference play, and we have the WNBA CBA Deadline. It's literally today. We have so much to talk about. I don't even know where to begin, but I think we have to begin with the WNBA CBA.
Yes.
I haven't really heard a lot. I don't know about you today. I haven't really heard a lot. There hasn't been a lot said about what is going on. The only thing that we know is that there's an in-person meeting happening this afternoon with players and the WNBA. The two sides did exchange proposals over the weekend, but there hasn't been a lot of details around that. When I don't really hear a lot, is that a good thing? Do you think they're working on it diligently right now? Do you think we'll see something by tonight?
Oof. Well, I mean, I do think we'll get some kind of update tonight because this was a deadline that the league imposed in a manner of speaking. And the deadline is for March 10th is all about the schedule as is. So we know, Alicia, that the WNBA released a preseason schedule and they announced that May 8 would be, shout out to the tourist team, the May 8 would be the first day of the season, expecting to go into the 30th season. Now, if there's not a deal by tonight, the league was suggesting strongly that there would be a delay to that season. Now, I think it's very valid that there would be a delay if we don't get something done, even kind of just under, an agreement, a verbal agreement by today. That being said, Alicia, you and I have talked about this on the podcast and off air. It kind of seemed like 5-8 would be tight either way. That's an earlier start time for the season than we've seen in years past. And I think also just going back to what we saw at the top of the year, or excuse me, at the end of 2025 going into 2026, there were 6 weeks where the league hadn't responded to the WNBPA's first proposal. We also have heard from players, Sophie Cunningham in particular, I think she mentioned on a podcast around March 5th, so a few days ago, that she felt that the proposals, the counter proposals that she was receiving, or the players were receiving from the league, were really just minor little tweaks and little half percentages here and there on things that weren't really the main focus of the Players Association. So I think it's honestly, I could see it going either way. We do know that Kelsey Plum and Brianna Stewart put a little bit of pressure on the Players Association by sending a letter that ultimately got leaked, Alicia, where they felt that they needed to understand more about the process. They wanted more player involvement. They, in that letter that was leaked to ESPN, felt like they didn't have an adequate seat at the table. We've also heard, though, from other executive board members like Elizabeth Williams and also a player representative. I think Lexi Brown I'm not sure if she's a player rep right now, but she has been a player rep in the past, saying that she feels pretty well informed. So there's been a lot of, I don't want to say, well, I do think it's a little bit of miscommunication, but I also think it's just a wide range of feelings and perspectives as we march on the 10th here with no word. So is it a good thing? I think maybe it's just that everyone's really tightened up, to answer your question, and that they are really focused. We've heard Caitlin Clark say, let's just get in a room and get this done. And Stewie at USA Basketball Camp kind of echoing what Clark said there, and like, hey, let's, however long it takes. And so the fact that the only update that we have is that there is an in-person meeting. Now, how many players are able to attend that meeting from the executive board or otherwise, that's something that at least I haven't seen yet, Alicia. I think it potentially could mean that a deal is done. And even if a deal is done, I think there still should be a lot of concern about the season, the 30th season, kicking off without a hitch.
Well, and you talked about the timeline. Number one, it's always been tight. Like, even, take this date out of it, it's always been tight. But then when you look at something like this happening and add free agency into it, and all of the players that are free agents, that literally have to sign deals and find new play. Like all their agents have to do all of this magic to get them to where they're going after a new CBA is signed. So there's all these new parameters, all these new percentages and everything. That is going to take some time as well. So
100%. And you're just talking about free agency. We still have two expansion drafts.
That part. And then in addition to that, I think a lot of people don't understand that when you have a CBA that gets done, you still have to go through a whole process to like ratify it. I'm probably saying the wrong word, but
100%.
to make sure that it is right, that it is exactly what each side has said it's going to be. And it takes time too. So even if they did, magically do something by the end of today, I don't see how it's going to work with the timeline that they've given. It seems impossible.
It truly does. And I think, maybe this is something that we honestly could have leaned into a little bit more. I know you and I have talked about it as more of a question that we've been offering up to our audience. Like, hey, is this even a realistic timeline? But now it really feels like that is the essence of the crux of the conversation, right? And I just do want to clean something up. I guess technically it doesn't have to be two different expansion drafts. What's more accurate is that there are two expansion teams that have to draft players. But at this point, I don't see they would have to do that all together, right?
There's a layer. There's another layer is what you're saying. So there's so many things that have to be done. And when I think about, you talked about there was the leak with the letter, and even Caitlin Clark saying, I don't understand why we're getting in this, why we haven't just gotten a room together and just shook hands or whatever she said specifically. I don't have it in front of me. But regardless, all of those things are tactics. Even this deadline is a tactic. When you are doing something as big as a new CBA and you're negotiating, all of these things, even not responding in 6 weeks, that is a tactic that is being used. So both sides have these things. And I hate when things leak and things, happen like that, because it looks like there is a lot of miscommunication within, the player side that I don't think is necessarily all the way there personally.
Right.
However, those are tactics. Like all of this is part of what negotiating a historic CBA like this is.
Yeah, 100%. And just to go back to what Caitlin Clark said, she is, of course, with USA Basketball, because that's also happening. We've got FIBA qualifiers. We've got some new faces with the senior women's team. Also, 3x3 has a team that is going to be competing. But what Caitlin Clark said is, quote, I don't understand why we don't just get in a room and iron it out and shake hands. That's how business is. You look at each other in the eye, you shake hands, you respect both sides. For me, that's what I would love to see. And listen, right? In a vacuum,
right?
You got it. Nailed it. From Caitlin Clark from the logo. Nailed it, right? 100%. However, this is not in a vacuum for a few different reasons. One, like you said, it's a negotiation. Negotiation tactics are always a part of it. I'm sure you get asked a lot as a woman in sports media, what advice do you give? When I'm asked that question, I always tell women, period, take a negotiation class, because you have to be able, and sometimes you will be tested to see if you are able to stand your ground, as a matter of speaking, and know your value and know your worth. People want to do business with people who know their value and their worth. So there's that part of it. Negotiation, that's just kind of how it goes. But then you add, this is a women's labor, and there are also overwhelmingly Black women, queer women involved in these labor negotiations. And if we look at a global context and even just a US context, there's not a great track record on labor negotiations when it comes to women, when it comes to queer people. We could also, go on and on. There's a lot involved here. And so, yes, Caitlin, we would love to see the Players Association and the league just go in a room and handle this. But there's been time to do that. And
there's been ample time. As a matter of fact, they started early to make sure that they had enough time.
Right. And so now, from the reports that we're hearing earlier today, Alicia, there's no choice but to get in that room. And, this is going to be knocked down, drag out, but you got to get it done, because already this is a very tight timeline.
And the players understand, and especially the players who have been in the league for a very long time, they understand how important this is. If we got to go in there and do a knockdown, drag out session, we need to do that because you're setting women up for the success that they should have had all along, right? And you're doing that. And you're doing that not only for the players that are there, but the players that are on the way. The players that we've been seeing play in these conference championships are counting on these players to make sure that they are paid what they do. They are paid what they're deserved to be paid, and should be paid. And 100%. So this is important. If they need extra time to make sure that they get the negotiations that they deserve, they need that. And I hate that the perception really is going to be that, you know, the players are stopping the season, the players are doing this, but it's not. It's both sides that are trying to outdo each other when it comes to the CBA. And, you know, the players need to make sure that they prevail in the ways that they know they should have been paid all along. It's just important. It's absolutely 100%. Important.
I think, you know, like cue up Joni Mitchell, both sides now, right? Like both sides now, y'all need to get for real about what we about to see. And the sticking points here, right, that we know, Alicia, it comes down to the revenue share and the pot that is guaranteed for the players. And so we've seen the league report like 70% of net revenue. And you're like, okay, 70%, like, let's go. Except net versus gross are critical to understand here. So the reports that we've been seeing is that 70% net revenue will equate to less than 15%, Alicia, of the gross revenue. Meanwhile, the players have been advocating, and we've seen this number teeter from reports, but anywhere from like 24 to 26% is really the area that the sweet spot that the Players Association is trying to be. They want 26% of the gross revenue. And again, actually, Sophie Cunningham and the podcast she was on, she did a great job of breaking that down in what gross revenue means and that percentage, how that then breaks down. Even if we just look at kind of median or average, we're not even talking about supermax, right, for veterans or what the rookie salaries will look like. We're just working with averages now, and those are important sticking points because, as you said, there's a lot of free agents, and so when you have a salary cap, when you have a max that you want to pay to veteran players and key players, you have to figure out and do some quick math as GMs to see if you can even sustain and carry over the roster that you had from last year. Let's think about the Aces who made a streak run, right? They, I'm sure, want to keep some of their team together. Minnesota, New York, these are teams like, and how is this going to impact not just quote unquote super teams, but as you mentioned, we've got some young talent coming through the NCAA, and all of that will be litigated in these negotiations right now. And then, of course, that's how it will play out for these GMs, including of the two new expansion teams in Toronto and Portland.
Well, you know, when we're talking about all of this and, you know, we're saying we really haven't heard a lot about what is going on today. Could a deal be done? Could it not? How do we move forward as WNBA fans? How do we move forward if a deal does not get done? Like,
you know, I think, and I've seen this a lot on social media, I think overwhelmingly the fans, from a lot of the fans that I have seen, do want the players to be paid. I do think there's also a swelling voice of fans that will support the players. Ultimately, if the Players Association agrees to a deal, then the fan base wants to support that the players agreed to a deal. Now, whether the fans personally think that's a good deal or not, what I personally would want to see, and what the Players Association has effectively kind of promised, is that this would be a groundbreaking deal. And last CBA was groundbreaking. And I want to see forward trajectory. I think that's huge. For me personally, as someone who has been covering this league, who watched it as a youth, that's what I would like to see. Now, again, what does that actually look like? How do you satisfy everyone? But I do think it's, you know, to take a quote from Fat Joe, yesterday's price ain't today's price. And that should be reflected in this CBA.
It should be. And I think that everybody can agree that we don't want to see any stoppage of play. We want the season to go the way that it should. Right now, it's just an amazing time in women's basketball and an amazing time in the WNBA, you know, for the growth trajectory. But how can you be okay with the growth when the very players that are causing this growth aren't being paid what they should be paid? And that's where I'm at with it is, you know, yes, it's going to be a blow to, I guess, the marketing and just how it's happening, you know, the growth, what is happening in current time, it's going to alter it. But we also don't want to move forward and just like bury what the players should be paid again. Like, we don't want to do that.
Right.
Because what good is a league if the players that are doing it aren't being paid what they should be paid?
Yeah, I think the only other thing I would add is we've seen work stoppages before. I'm a baseball fan. We've seen a few baseball seasons just not happen because of strikes and lockouts and things of that nature. We've seen delays to seasons before.
NBA.
This is unprecedented in women's sports. And again, I think you have to place this in the proper context. You can say things a la Caitlin Clark in a vacuum, but then you have to be able to sit in the reality that there are different stakes at play because this is a women's league. This is an overwhelmingly a league that's made up of and comprised of overwhelmingly Black women. They lean into their queerness, those of them who identify as queer, as well as the fan base. And all of these things together, including that no women's pro league has ever gone through a lockouts or a strike. All of these things are at play. But again, I think for me, the question more so than anything is, even if there is a deal in play, is there truly enough time to get everything done that needs to be done? Not just for a WNBA, not just any regular WNBA season. This is the 30th year, the 30th season. Can you realistically, from March 10 to May 8, put together a season that is worthy of this milestone?
That is worthy and also safe for the players that are playing it, because that's a lot to go through in a short amount of time. Even regularly, we have concerns about that.
Right.
So, well, it's so many things. Like, I'm getting my words twisted when I'm talking about this because I'm so passionate about it, Erica. But you know, there's so many things at play, and we definitely want you to play too. So make sure that in the comments that you're putting all of your opinions on this, because we want to hear what you have to say. And while you're at it, subscribe, like, comment, do all the things, because we always want you in the conversation. And we're going to have some conversation about conference play when we come back right after this break.
This is why we do this every March.
Major slam!
It is a basketball party.
It's March! Expect the unexpected!
It's a party. It's a party. Hey.
Erica, it really has been a party. I don't know about you, but watching basketball nonstop is amazing. Something that I definitely love. It's on tap for sure. We've been watching all of these conference tournaments, and we're going to break down some of them right now. And we're going to start with the Big 12. West Virginia, come through. What we just say? What we just say, Erica?
Listen, I'm going to give you credit for that, because I feel like you were the one who brought that up first. And I was like, matter of fact, you might be right. Let me look into this West Virginia real quick. Some Mountaineers, okay? Defense, Alicia.
All of it. They beat TCU in the conference tournament 62-53. It marks the program's second Big 12 tournament title, the first since 2017, okay? Jordan Harrison won Most Outstanding Player. And literally, like, just watching it. I mean, I watched that game from start to finish, and they were handling it. I was like, West Virginia, you got this. Like, it was no question. They came in, they said, we got the chip. So I think they're gonna disrupt even more when they get to the NCAA tournament, for sure.
Again, and they hang their hat on defense. Jordan Harrison, the defensive player in the Big 12, was so emotional after the game, couldn't even get her thoughts together, just thinking about how hard she and the team had worked. They had lost to TCU a few times earlier in conference play. But, this is a chance to continue on to March in the NCAA tournament. The only NCAA tournament to be played at West Virginia was back in 1992 when it was a field of 48. And
Wow.
right now, and we'll talk about bracketology and some other things a little bit later throughout the show, but right now, a lot of experts saying, including our experts at CBS Sports, that they have a chance to be a top 16 team, which would mean they do get to host. And that's huge.
That's huge. And don't you forget that this is a team who beat Duke with 5 players. 5 players. And Duke just won their conference tournament, which we will be talking about. But they won with 5 players. Do not forget.
That was a while. It feels like that was so long ago.
I know. It actually was kind of long ago. In basketball age.
Right. That's true.
Basketball age.
Right.
If that's a thing. But we'll definitely be keeping tabs on West Virginia. I know I have all season, but I love watching them play. Some other notable results in Big 12 conference championship play, or I would say their conference play. Iowa State lost to Arizona State 77-68 in the second round, and Kansas State beat Texas Tech 58-51 in the second round.
Upset.
So a little bit of upset, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, something that certainly was very large, and that's the Big 10 conference tournament, the largest win by any team over an AP top 10 opponent in the NCAA era, and that's UCLA winning the conference championship 96-45 over Iowa.
Yeah. We have been talking about UCLA all throughout this NCAA season. Not surprised about UCLA being in the championship. I was riding hard for Michigan. Iowa did get through Michigan.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit. And so I was like, okay, Iowa, maybe I've been sleeping on you. We've talked about this before. Should Iowa be a 2 seed and things of that nature? And I was like, I love what they're doing, and I'm not quite sure. Now, how much of that are the questions that I had about Iowa reflected in this, very one-sided affair? How much of that is just UCLA and their domination? I think the answer is yes, because Iowa struggled mightily in that first quarter. Alicia, I was watching this game from start to finish and then hopped on CBS Sports HQ to discuss it. Turnovers were huge, a huge factor. And you saw that UCLA got out to a 22-5 first quarter lead. And a lot of that was because Iowa, the Hawkeyes, they didn't protect the ball in the way that they should have, Alicia.
They didn't. And I think on top of that, this was just a very much statement win by UCLA to show people, listen, we haven't really got the burn that we really deserve this year as the team that we are. And we're going to talk about that too a little bit later. However, they just took control and never looked back and just kept it moving. I mean, it was actually some really, it was a beautiful basketball by UCLA. And it actually really got me thinking, and I wonder what you have to think about this. Would you rather lose this big in the conference championship or by a point? Because I feel like it's by a point personally, even though it's heartbreaking. This is just, it's hard to compute. 51-point loss in a conference tournament championship.
It is not great. And it speaks to a lot more that you have to focus on in theory, especially if you think that the loss was technical. And I do think there were some technical aspects here. So that's what makes it hard, because this is a championship environment. and a team that we've seen be a contender even before the Caitlin Clark era, right? And in conference tournament play in particular has always kind of been there, Iowa. To not have your best showing in the conference championship, that's tough. But like you said, this is also UCLA showing out. Okay, like they get the biggest win in Big Ten conference, largest by a team over an AP top 10 opponent in the NCAA era. And Lauren Betts had how many of them points?
10.
That's something you need to underscore for this UCLA squad. Now, it looked like Betts got a little shaken up early in this game. She did continue to play, so I'm not expecting that will be something that's lingering. She scored 10 points, 5 players in double digits. And I want to shout out Gianna Neepkins.
Yes.
19 points and 4 of 8 from the arc. Really was able to get good stretches for this UCLA squad and continue to swell that lead. But also Kiki Rice, most outstanding player. You had Sienna Betts, had a season high of 14. Jaquez Ledger Walker also had 10 plus points. So it was happening from everywhere. And 13 3-pointers overall for the Bruins.
Well, you say it's happening everywhere, and I think that's why people need to look at that line even further, because if Lauren Betts only has 10 and you're winning by, 51 points, you need to look out for that whole team.
Hello?
And you've been saying that. Let's put that on the record.
Right. Thank you. But it's been a focus. Corey Close wanted to give a reprieve to Lauren Betts. And you know what that means is that the Lauren Betts is yet to come. Okay, that was corny, but I went with it. Listen, she's well rested because this has been a UCLA squad they haven't had to rely on her. And they got to the Final Four on her back last year. Now sis putting her feet up every once in a while, is doing dances, right? Is out with the dance squad, having a good old time.
She hit that routine. I'm telling you what I know.
Hit it.
That routine, they all did, but I was like, okay, Lauren, come on, tall girl, you better dance.
You want to talk about the joy, and we know that her mental wellness has been something that she's focused on and has really had to make a priority, and to see that now coming through joy with her teammates, with the experience. We spoke to her, CBS Sports, just before her senior year. And that was a focus of hers, not necessarily the rebounds or conference titles, but wanting to do it her way and have fun along the journey. And the fact that she's getting rest, she seems to be and again, her mental wellness and the joy is there. And she only had to put up 10. That's, I don't know what else to say.
And you said last year that they really were kind of on her back because she was carrying the team in a lot of different ways. But to see this shows you how important the changes that they've made to the team have been, really, truly. And it's why they really are somebody, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, that is so dangerous in this tournament and maybe should be an overall number 1 seed. Look, I'm just saying, so we'll get into that. So definitely don't go. But I want to point out some other notable results in the Big Ten. And Oregon beat Maryland 73-68. Illinois beat Michigan State 71-69. And Iowa beat Michigan 59-42. The loss snapped an 8-game Wolverines win streak.
I like Michigan coming in, but anything can happen in tournament time.
Yeah, anything can happen for sure. So a lot of movement in that conference tournament as well. But we got to go to the SEC, baby. We got to go.
Come on.
Yes. So Texas, they won 78-61 over South Carolina. The Longhorns started the game with a 14-0 lead and didn't look back, never let the lead dip below double digits. And they didn't. They came out, they played that game and they took control from the moment one.
From jump,
Moment one. Vic
literally.
Schaefer said, "I had some kids that were here on a mission."
Mm.
And they were. They were. Madison Booker was named most outstanding player. We belong in the SEC. We're here to play and we're here to win.
All right. And did.
And did. And did. It was a little shocking. You know, I think a lot of people thought that South Carolina had it on lock because of obviously them winning so many, you know, conference championships, and they played LSU. But I also think not to give anybody any kind of excuse, right? They definitely lost to Texas, but they played that LSU game and left a lot out on that court after playing that game, which I think, you know, kind of led to some of, I don't want to say, but like the non-traditional play that we saw from South Carolina in that next game.
I think that's fair. It's a conversation that we saw throughout a few conferences. We didn't talk about this when we mentioned TCU and West Virginia, but that was a conversation as well with TCU. You know, was fatigue a factor? And when you play a team that you knew was going to be a defensive-minded team, you know, that was going to come and get you. But what I will say here is it could be fatigue. Sometimes it's not your time. But what we do know, and you already said it with those quotes from Texas, lick back Longhorns. Okay. They were on a mission. They were not fitting to lose in the SEC tournament again to South Carolina. Because listen, we got to remember that these are two teams. They had to do a coin toss just to figure out who's going to be the number one seed. That was like a year ago. Okay. And both teams feeling some kind of way. You know, Vic Schaefer been putting on for his team. Why we traveling here? Why we doing, you know, he's been putting that out there. And
he also criticized him and put a fire under him too.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I know. And so that chip has been continually growing. He's had to have real conversations with his stars and be like, are we about this life or nah? And his team showed up. They showed up and they showed out. Now it's not over, neither for South Carolina nor Texas. And we're going to get into, of course, the bracket. But you mentioned earlier, Alicia, would you rather lose in a conference tournament, conference championship style by one, or a blowout? And I mean, Dawn Staley, she had some things to say about that. And this is something that Chris Williamson and I talked about. Listen, it's not ideal. But when you're a team like South Carolina or the UConns of the world, when you have a bad game, everyone's going to be talking mess about you the next day, except for your mama and them. You got to flush it. You got to flush it.
Have to.
You know, you take the L and then you keep the receipts.
Right. And she specifically said, I told them that the last time we lost in this situation, we won the national championship. It might be the very thing this team needs.
Ooh. Sometimes you need a swift one to the rear.
Yeah, and they got it.
They did.
They definitely got it. But congratulations to Texas.
Yes.
Obviously a huge win. I want to say, and Emma, you could fact check me, but is that the first conference tournament that Texas has won?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that it is. So congratulations to them. And also, you know, Jordan Lee, congratulations. You did your Thug Thizzle. She did her thing. That was old. I don't know where that came from. Thug Thizzle, but that's okay.
Hey, listen, we are both in our little, you know, we feeling it today. I love this for us.
Yeah, I do love it for us too. Some other notable results that we just want to touch on before we leave the SEC is that Alabama beat Tennessee 76-64 to extend the Lady Vols losing streak in their tournament hopes might be in jeopardy there. I think there's a lot going on there behind the scenes. So I'm sure we'll hear about it as the weeks go on. But number 24, Ole Miss beat number 5 Vanderbilt 89-78. And number 6, LSU beat number 7 Oklahoma 112-78. So I mean, that's actually a pretty telling game there too. I actually liked what I saw from LSU versus South Carolina as well. You know, obviously they lost, but I think it's going to bode really well for them A loss too very much fuels that team as well. I think it'll bode very well for them going into the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, and I just want to shout out Ole Miss because they looked at times like a really dangerous squad in this tournament. And I think for a few years now, you really can't count out Coach Yo and Ole Miss
No.
because they can get you. So yeah, but a great tournament overall. SEC is one of the conferences that we do expect to have multiple teams a dancing. So we'll see who ultimately is representing the SEC.
Well, we know who's representing the ACC, and that would be Duke because they beat Louisville 70-65 in overtime.
Yes.
This was such an exciting game to watch. It's the first time since 2010-11 that Duke has won back-to-back ACC tournament titles, ties Maryland for the most conference titles of all time with 10. Kara Lawson called the game an emotional roller coaster. We never say die. We just always believe. And I mean, this is what March is all about. Games like this.
Yeah, because if you tuned in early to that game, Alicia, y'all are probably thinking, now see, let me hop in these comments of we need to talk now, because I know Erica been like, don't be worried about Duke, don't be worried about Kara. Well, y'all was probably worried early in this game.
A little worried.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Down 21-14 early. But then, listen, one thing we know about Kara, she can be intense, okay? Intense with the love, and I'm sure intense with the fierce, the ferocity, right? And if I had to guess, it was probably 80-20 ferocity versus love in that locker room. But it woke them up.
Sure did.
It woke them up. And then you started seeing Duke is not necessarily a team that we see successful necessarily from the perimeter. They started shooting from the perimeter, knocking down those shots, having to stretch that defense. And that makes a world of a difference. Compound that with, we know that they are a fierce team defensively, and that's what allowed them to get back into the game and ultimately win in overtime.
Yeah, and also they fought back without, well, not without, but she was in foul trouble. Toby Fournier, like, got into foul trouble, fouled out in the waning minutes of the fourth quarter. And so what I liked about this game for Duke, especially going into the tournament, well, number one, they won the conference championship. Great. But also, we've seen a lot of adversity. We've been talking about that in all of these conferences, right? But what they did is they dig themselves back up. Like, what they did is take something that was really hard and then turn it into a win. And that's what you need. You need that grit. You need that determination. You need to know that no matter what, like she said, we never say die. We just always believed. You need that. That is one of the things that is necessary to become a champion. Right. And so that's what I love the most about this game for Duke is that in real time, in the middle of the game, they learned from it and not having to learn from a loss. They came back and won. And so that was what I loved.
I think you also have to give shout out to Mayer, 19 points and 3 of 5 from the arc. Delaney Thomas also had 19 points and was 8 of 11 from the floor. So again, a team that had been known and has hung their hat on defense. When it came down to another title, they had some scorers out there. And as you mentioned, knowing that they had one of their starters in foul trouble. So good showing here. I think also we know that, or I think it's probably well known that Duke is a team that they have to scrap, right? They have to fight. They have to claw. You were just talking about that, Alicia. And that's what I'm expecting will happen for Duke. There's still a team that I think is working their way towards one of the top teams or a team that we expect to win more than they lose. I don't think they're quite there yet, but this is really a step in the right direction for the program.
Yeah, a step in the right direction and very much, you plan all season to be on time for the tournament. And I feel like Duke is one of those teams that is is right on time where they should be going into this
I
tournament.
like that. Yeah,
for
I like
sure. Well, we have a lot to talk about when it comes to the number 1 overall seed, and we're going to get into it right after this break.
All right,
We're gonna,
springtime. Oh.
yeah, we're definitely gonna get into this, but we got to do it in our favorite way, and that is the guarantee of the week presented by AT&T. So when we're talking about the number 1 overall seed, I'm just gonna say it. Who do you guarantee to be the number 1 overall seed? Is it going to be UCLA or UConn? Erica?
See, now why you ain't let me just, why you
Well,
ain't let me just lean into it a little
This is the
bit?
guarantee of the week. There's no leaning.
Okay. All right. Dang, you're making me all uncomfortable, starting to sweat. Oof, who do I guarantee? You know what? I'm going to ride with the team I've been talking to y'all about all season. And so I'm going to say it's UCLA.
Say it then. What would be your reasoning for that? Because I can see, like, I was talking earlier with Emma, our producer. You guys know who Emma is. And if you put everything about these teams on paper but didn't put their actual names, UCLA has a far better setup for a number 1 overall seed than UConn does.
Right. And the great Jack Maloney over at CBS Sports on our editorial team did a great breakdown of just that. So we know that quad 1 wins are huge. You also think about things like opponent strength of schedule. We've talked about this before. The Big Ten is a team that sent, I believe it was 10, right, Alicia? 10 teams to the NCAA tournament last year. They're on the trajectory to send roughly 12 from what we're seeing from our bracketology and from our experts. That means every night, you're going up against teams that are going dancing, and you got to prove it. And they lost, Alicia, no games in conference.
Undefeated in conference.
No games undefeated in their conference. And the one loss, they lost early to Texas, which was a team that had a deep undefeated run themselves.
And the team that just won their own conference tournament.
That's what I know. And again, we talked about Texas earlier for all the reasons. Texas is a true team. I was holding it down. I was holding the water for the Bruins against out, because I definitely picked UCLA for that game. And listen, it didn't quite happen that way. But when you take on a Texas team, you got to show up, and Texas had them beat early on. Now, when they see each other in the tournament, that's going to be a really interesting one. And not only when, as in it's inevitable that it will likely happen, but when, as in actually at what point, right, in the tournament is going to be very, very interesting, because that's going to be, a big game if we see it there. But I'm going to go with UCLA. I just think that, yes, they have the one loss, so you can say, okay, undefeated team versus a team with literally one loss. To me, the margin is very close there. Then you look at things like, I talked with Chris Williamson about this over the weekend. You look at what they're averaging as far as assists per game, assist to turnover ratio, points per game. The top 2 teams in all of NCAA are UConn and UCLA. And again, Jack really broke down these great metrics that really do matter, or at least we're told that they matter, right? When it comes to quad wins. Now, UConn may be, this is what Jack wrote, UConn may be undefeated, but UCLA has 10 more quad 1 wins. Their 18 quad 1 wins are the most in the country, and have 6 fewer quad 4 wins than the aforementioned UConn in this case. UCLA's lone defeat, as we just talked about, came in December to a number 4 Texas squad. And if you haven't checked out this article by Jack, definitely check it out. I think he makes a strong analytical case for UCLA. So now, I've got to turn it on you, Alicia. Who you taking? What's your guarantee?
Well, I'm going to say for the record, I think that they will select UConn as being the number 1 overall. I think that is what will happen. But I would also say UCLA.
I like it.
I would myself say UCLA because of the fact that they literally have 10 more quad 1 wins. 10. Not 1, not 2, 10. 10.
Not 1, not 2.
Okay? They don't have an overall undefeated schedule, but when you have a schedule like that and you only have 1 loss, to me, the weight, like you said, it is not evenly distributed there with undefeated. Okay. So there's that. They just won their conference championship by 51 points, literally the largest by any team over an AP top 10 opponent in the NCAA era. The largest win in Big Ten championship game all time, of all time, right? So you look at their quad win, you look at their win in the conference championship, you look at who they lost to, which was Texas, early. And I just feel like just the numbers don't lie when it comes to that. So if I'm just looking at it like that, I have to pick UCLA. I have to. But let me tell you something. Coach Corey Close, she don't care. She said, I don't really care.
Literally.
When you focus on things out of your control, it will adversely affect the things under your control. I think if I put any energy towards that, I'm taking energy away from what it will actually take to get there. I think our focus needs to be on the how. How do we play our best basketball in March?
Listen, I love the process. I love the process. And that's why I've been speaking about UCLA all season. But I want to stick to something that you said, Alicia, because in Jack's analysis, I think you could also see why someone would make a case for UConn. And the things that stand out here in Jack's analysis, again, check it out at cbssports.com. But he talks about the opponents that these two teams have in common. And if you look at their 5 common opponents, Iowa, Michigan, Ohio State, Tennessee, and USC, that the margin of victory favors UConn. Now that's interesting because Iowa, Michigan, and Ohio State are in the same conference as UCLA. So now on the one hand, that means UConn can definitely hang with the Big Ten if we just look in this small grouping. And I think that's a valid point because a lot of people will give UConn a demerit, so to speak, because they play in the Big East. And that's where those quad 4 wins come, right? And why UConn likely has more of those wins. But to see that UConn can hang with a conference that is likely going to send 12 teams, that's, really interesting. I think also, although there are some metrics where, again, UCLA is top 2, they're usually behind UConn. Offensive rating is favorable for UCLA, as is offensive rebound percentage. But Jack shows that in defensive rating, net rating, efficiency, and turnovers, that all belongs to UConn. And that turnover thing, that was a big thing we talked about in the Paige Beckers era. But taking care of the basketball in the NCAA tournament, Alicia, is huge. And so now you said what you think should happen, who you would pick. But you also said that you do think that UConn will ultimately get the number 1. And I'm curious, in addition to some of the stuff that we talked about from Jack, what makes you think that UConn is ultimately going to be the number 1 overall seed?
Mine isn't necessarily statistical, but I just think people carry so much weight in that undefeated. And they've been at the top all season long. And I'm not saying, please don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that UConn is not amazing, because they are. And I think, I'm still picking them to win the whole thing at this current moment. I'm picking UConn to win it. But I think if you are doing what we've done all season and breaking down this and that and who should be here and what, the numbers tell us that it should be them. That is just it. When you break it down like that, going back to what Emma and I were talking about, and we were all talking about in like the production meeting that we had, is literally, if you wrote it down on paper, you would pick UCLA just based on where they ended up, where they're at right now, what they accomplished this year. So is it fair what I'm saying that they will probably pick UConn anyway? Probably not, but it's just the truth.
Yeah. And this is a question, and maybe, you know, some of our listeners will have a better answer here, because I really don't know. Is it more that it's UConn, 12 national titles, or is it
and
UConn,
reigning champions?
That's what I was about to say. Is it more the 11 prior, or is it the one last year that potentially will give them the edge? Because I'm leaning towards you being correct, that even though we think that the numbers tell the story that UCLA should be number one overall, I do think that there is a lean towards UConn. And is that more historical, as in the full history of UConn women's basketball, or is that the most recent history, what have you done for me lately style? And oh, wait, they won the national championship, and then go undefeated the next year and have people talking about they might be better without Paige. That's wild. That's wild.
Well, also, I don't know if you saw it, but Gino said that's one of the things that the team is thinking. And I'm paraphrasing, but they don't want Paige to be able to say, "See, you needed me."
Ooh. Hey.
And he knows how to use something like that to win a championship. That's all I got to say.
Sure does. Either way, whoever is number one, deservedly so. And when are we going to see these two teams go head to head? It bet not be before you and I get to Phoenix for that Final Four.
No, I don't want it. Don't do that.
Don't do
That's
it.
what you shouldn't do. That should have been our guarantee. We want to guarantee that we don't see these teams play each other until the final.
That's the real guarantee, AT&T. Book it right now.
Period. Well, something else that I wanted to guarantee is that the Paralympics are amazing.
Yes.
The Paralympics are amazing. They're going on right now. And I wanted to particularly, I want to give props to all the athletes, but in particular, Oksana Masters, who we have had on the show, won her 20th Paralympic medal with gold in the biathlon 7.5 kilometer sprint, which I don't even like. I can't even. I don't run. I don't sprint anymore. Was already Team USA's most decorated winter Paralympian, and is continuing her run to greatness. Has been dealing with a reoccurring leg infection and concussion in the lead up to the Olympics. So definitely had to overcome some adversity and has always had to overcome adversity. And won gold again on Monday in the first para cross country skiing event of the game. So we just wanted to give you a shout out, give you all your flowers. Congratulations. And I believe, Emma, she's still competing. I'm not positive on that, but regardless, she already got 2 golds. So yeah, it's just truly amazing. And then Cecile Hernandez, 51-year-old gold medalist, Erica.
Let's go.
She won her second Paralympic gold medal on Sunday and said, "It's incredible, and I still can't realize what happened. I'm very, very proud. My daughter is here, and my dream was to see some tears, but tears of joy in my daughter's eyes and on her face. I did it, and the medal is for her." And at 51 to win a gold medal is just truly amazing. So definitely check out the Paralympics if you haven't. I don't know what to tell you. Just watch it. Yeah. That's it.
Great competition. It's like you said, phenomenal. And as someone who's just in Milano, the venues, a lot of the volunteers are the same. So it's just good vibes overall.
Definite good vibes. And we're going to give good vibes to the WNBA CBA, to all the basketball that we're going to be watching in March.
Good
and,
vibes, good vibes.
you know, good vibes. We're going to be here for all of it. So make sure that you subscribe, like, comment, do all the things so that we're locked in for all these shows that are coming your way. And thank you for being with us today right here on My Goodness, We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. We're going to see you a million times soon.